Stirling, nice to see you.
Hey, Mr. Murray, long time no talk.
Long time no talk. Hey, I'm grateful for your willingness to share some time and space together today to reminisce, shall we say, about a couple of interesting engagements we've had together. And I appreciate, the generosity with which you show up today, because really this is designed to be helpful to others who are moving through significant change and challenge and choice, and maybe dancing on the thresholds of a significant transition, a transition of significance to them. So thank you so much for lending some of your time and focus today.
My pleasure, Murray. Anytime. I welcome the conversation with you at any time.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, maybe just as a starting point is, whatever you would like to share, maybe a little bit about yourself. A moment introduction would be welcome to help frame what follows.
Sure. Yeah. Like Murray, touched on. My name's Stirling Fraser. I currently reside in Kelowna, BC, and have been here for about 16 years now. And came up here with a young family, and have an older family now, and here for a lifestyle choice. As far as what I do, I've been an environmental consultant since oh my goodness, since 1997, and then I was in the environmental field with the government for 7 years prior to that. So I've been in and out of the environmental field for almost 30 years. And then I'm also being involved in the real estate investment and helping people, realize their dreams of home ownership as well.
Cool.
So, mid-career professional, had a lot of interesting, adventures and stories over the course of my working career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Well, thank you. Your diverse skill set and experience over many years, and you and I. Harkening back to 6 or 7 years ago, me also residing in Kelowna, you and I had an opportunity to meet through the local Chamber of Commerce, and that's where we got our start, and then a friendship ensued from there, and I've certainly had this pleasure and privilege of working together with you on a couple of different occasions through both the community shift, the community experience, and then subsequent to that, what I call the 1 year alchemy. And so we'll touch on those places. So Stirling, if you would, it's always helpful for those who are looking in to have a sense for, even before you decided to engage with me, it's a significant point to even consider bringing someone from the outside of your life into the inside of your life, and anything you're comfortable sharing as far as what was happening back then, even maybe prior to us having conversations about such possibilities.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Murray, and I've kind of reflected back on those initial times, and like you said, is we met by chance.
Yes.
And then we started over, I think it was a cup of coffee. We just started, getting to know one another, and realized that we both had gone and done our graduate work at Royal Roads University, and we had our lineages back into Ontario, and so we started. It was just starting to build a little bit of a relationship, and pardon me. And I think that's where a lot of my business relationship have come from, is people getting to know me, and me to getting to know them. Mm-hmm. And that was really the starting point with you, is when we met, it wasn't about business. It was just very, getting to know Murray McEachern, getting to know, your values and your interests, and, where was your moral compass? And, over the course of a wine and maybe the odd beer, we got to build this, this rapport and this relationship
Right.
to a point where, we were able to have some conversation. And I guess at that stage, when we first started talking about, where I was at with my career and my life, and I had already put in about 20 years, consulting. And, my metric or my success stick was, I was, by definition, my metrics at the time, I was successful, but I wasn't getting up in the morning and I wasn't revved up. I wasn't excited. I didn't have the passion that I maybe once did have about my career and life in general. And I was kind of starting to question and going through that kind of mid-career, midlife time in my life where I was just starting to go, is this really all there is? Is there something else? Is there something different? And it was just very fortuitous that we connected and started having that conversation. And I think it was at that point you started sharing with me, well, I'm actually bringing this community 100-day shift. I think you call it the Hollywood Squares.
Right.
There was, I don't know,
dating both of us.
Yeah, exactly. And that we were all, going to be together over this 100 days and getting together and sharing thoughts and ideas and supporting one another. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. What a breath of fresh air. And I wasn't looking for it, but I connected with you as a person. And then you kind of backfilled with this opportunity that I was looking for, and hence starting off with this 100-day shift with you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking us back to those early roots.
The 100-day shift, it was actually pretty daunting. It was getting on a I don't know what platform we even used back then.
It was Zoom. It was Zoom too.
Okay, yeah. It was early day Zoom.
Yeah.
And then having everyone kind of pop up like Hollywood Squares. And I still vividly recall that after our first call, and I think we had 6, 7 people on there.
Yeah.
And this was people that didn't know each other from across Canada. And you were just teasing out just different ideas and different things to talk upon. And by the end of the call, I don't think there was a dry eye on the group of 7 on the call.
Yeah, so early on too.
It was really a unique experience from my perspective, that 7 unique individuals who had never met were able to kind of connect and bond in such a short period of time. And I really attribute that to you as a person, to be able to just to create an atmosphere of people to be comfortable and, that they can be vulnerable. Like there was people that were very, me included, that were very open and emotional. And that was the start of our 100-day shift.
Yeah, that was the start. I so appreciate you bringing that up. For those who are interested in getting a different angle on this, Helen has also had a chat, who is our member of our community, and it's lovely to witness that as well, and to hear her say exactly the same thing. It's like, whoa, like right off the crack, it's like everybody, there was sort of a point of readiness, I suppose, and what is common to all of our experiences, myself included, because I journeyed with you. It wasn't, I was there with you going through it too, is that, that significant change arrives, either change that affects us or is affected from within us. And we find ourselves at these thresholds of uncertainty and curiosity and possibility. And so, yes, for the 7 of us to have come together and connect so deeply and so quickly was was really a meaningful experience for sure.
Yeah, and I really think that was very much, how you kind of, created this opportunity with this 100-day shift in this community event, because we had people I think some younger people right up to people that were, near retirement age. And, it didn't matter that it was a certain segment or a demographic or whatever. It was this really unique, diverse group being able to come together and share and to support. And I think when we wrapped up, I think there was a lot of people that were really disappointed that we weren't carrying on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real testament to you, but also the group and the opportunity.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying so. And, as we've often talked about co-creativity, there were 7 of us co-creating in all those different webs of relationships, because we each had a relationship with each other, and then we had a relationship with the community as well. And what was common about everybody is that at some level of awareness, and that level of awareness grew over our community experience together. At some level of awareness, significant change was having an effect. And I'm inspired by you. I was inspired by you back then. I continue to be inspired by you. And there's the bravery that is necessary to acknowledge that, as successful as I am, by many a definition, there is something within me that is calling me to explore, let's say, a greater fullness. And you were willing to lean into that and trust in that and follow that. And hey, parts of that are uncomfortable because apparently the formula that I have had as my formula of success for a good long period of time is morphing to some extent. And like, what the heck? and me, I've gone through it too, a few different thresholds, so I can totally relate with the discomfort associated with that. Could you comment at all on how that sort of unraveled in you?
I think, to your question there is I came into the 100-day shift one person, and I think I left after that 100 days a very different person. And when I say that, I think I was able to better understand myself, who I was. I was really able to kind of step back and really start peeling the layers of the onion away of myself. And you mentioned, and I mentioned before, about my definition of success. Like a lot of business people, my main metric of success as a business person, as an individual, was based financially. How much money? What was our profit margins for being an entrepreneur and being in business? And that's that was my yardsticks. But I soon realized that wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving the greater person that I was outside of being a business person. Mm-hmm. There was more inside of me that was kind of starting to bubble up.
Right.
And I was realizing that, maybe that older definition of success really wasn't my go forward in determining or defining who I was.
Mm-hmm. I love how you characterize the greater person within me. That encapsulates so much. That is the nature of this work, is that there's nothing to be gotten outside. What is to be had is a reconnection, a reawakening, a re-enlivening, perhaps, of what perhaps has been in some degree of dormancy, maybe. Or is awakening at the perfect time, as it should, as a human evolves. And it's interesting at this point, I'd like to just comment for those who are watching or listening is, my experience is that these sorts of changes that happen within us, or maybe happen within us as a result of what's happened outside of us, are always our greater potential coming to call. And that can be both inspiring and intimidating at the same time as we get to know new dimensions of ourselves. Stirling, if you will, maybe the during part of the community shift is, could you comment on what your experience was as far as, you know, process or structure or methodology, or, you know, was that part of your experience or was it not? I think it's a curiosity for people looking in who may in fact enroll in a future community shift themselves as to, so what was it like? You know, like what was it like sort of week to week over 100 days?
I would say that, you know, right from the outset, when we started the 100-day shift, you know, you laid out some ground rules as far as, you know, that everyone had to agree to, you know, privacy and confidentiality. So, you know, whatever happened in the community, whatever was said, it stayed there. So people could be open, vulnerable, and that they didn't have a fear of you know, it's going to show up somewhere else. And so, you know, you were very calm, you know, consistent with that. So we always knew that that was kind of, you know, the underlying process. But as far as, you know, week to week, you know, in between time, there was homework that we were, you know, whether it was writing in our journal, whether it was doing a little bit of research, it might be different for everyone else. But and then more so for me, it was just that quiet time, just thinking, reflecting, and just kind of processing all the different things and thoughts and ideas that I was going through between each of the community calls. Mm-hmm. But the call itself is often, you know, you would have almost a bit of a theme that you would kind of float out there to the group. But, you know, the thing I love about you is that you just went with it. Sometimes I remember some of the calls where, you know, you thought we were talking about this, we ended up talking about this, and you know what? It just morphed into that. And the nice thing about it is you weren't hard and fast in, you know, that we have to be focusing on this subject or this whatever. And you allowed the group to kind of drive the discussion and the conversation.
I chuckle because I would come to our community calls, which were, as I recall, they were 90 minutes, and I would come prepared. I mean, I am facilitating, so I need to be prepared. You know, that there's an agenda and there's a methodology to the shift and the whole bit, and it's just another lesson in letting go. Some of those sessions, because, you know, it would take on a life of its own. You are your own individuals and your own individual community dynamic. And I would marvel in the next lesson in learning to just let go and be with what unfolds, and the magic that happens when we have space to create in the moment, to co-create in the moment together, right?
Yeah. So, you know, having that flexibility, that co-creation, to be able to flow in the moment was, I think, very important for pretty much everyone there, certainly me included.
Yeah, well, thank you for acknowledging that, and yeah, well, even for me included, you know, as both the facilitator and a fellow journeyer during the process. So I'm gonna ask if we could leap ahead a little bit before I ask you a question around, you know, so people looking in on this and maybe they're contemplating the community shift, or maybe they're contemplating one of the other programs that I offer. Before I ask you, so what's it like working with a guy like this? Maybe I could go to you came through the community shift experience, you graduated from the community shift experience, and then shortly thereafter, built on further conversations you and I had, you decided that you were going to engage in what I call the 1-year alchemy, and that is a deeper dive, and it's over the course of a subsequent year, which was a significant commitment on your part and our part. And maybe you could touch on that threshold, Stirling, as to, okay, so you came through the community shift and then you decided to move into this other kind of experience. How come? Like, what was some of the dynamics that were going on there?
Sure. Yeah, like coming out of that 100-day shift, there was more questions than there was answers at the end of it.
I chuckled because such is life, right? But yeah,
and it was good. It was good questions that were bubbling up over the course of the 100-day shift. But I realized, and it was funny, a lot of the sentiment from the other people was the same as like, oh, we're done. We're done 100 days. Now what?
Oh yeah, right. Yes.
And I remember having a conversation with you, and it was probably 6 weeks after 100-day shift, and I peeled a lot of layers off of my onion, and was really starting to think and process and look at that and go, okay, where do I go from here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you kind of said, well, I do have this 1-year alchemy program. And so it was like, well, tell me more. And so you graciously provided me some information. You kind of gave me, really what was intended for, what was the process. You gave me, I think it was 2 or 3 people, either current or former alumni of the alchemy program, that I actually had conversations with, and just had some really heart-to-heart conversations with these people, and to try to understand, is this 1-year alchemy program, is this something for me? Does it work for me? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because I'd already started to get to know you as a person. I knew you had come to get to know you as a quality person from the community 100-day shift. It was about, was this program something, like you said, it was a 1-year, commitment, both dollars and time and energy and emotions and whatnot.
Yes.
And so after doing my due diligence and soul searching, everything else, I said, yep, this is what I want to take on. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a hard decision, because I was engaging with somebody that I had a relationship with. I understood who they were, their values, and realized that in my own journey, I wanted to go explore and go to a different level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that. The due diligence, certainly, before you embark on something like that. And just as a footnote, it's the two of us. It's not a community experience. It was different, because it's the two of us sort of walking together a meandering path over a longer duration of time. And yeah, it deserves that due diligence. You're a thoughtful guy. You weigh your commitments carefully, and you're the kind of person that once you commit, you are all in. And that's something I've always admired about you. And, it is, for the listener and the viewer, that's a really important dynamic, is to weigh your commitment to these things carefully. And then once in, like, have at her, immerse yourself in it, because there's so many different dimensions and layers and colors to become accustomed to during the course of time together. And so there was these two sort of back-to-back experiences, and I had this privilege to get to know you and all these different dimensions of you over the course of both of these different kinds of dynamics. maybe I could ask then, okay, so people are looking in and going, whoa, you were working with Murray and a community for 100 days, and then you were working with Murray for a year. That's a lot of time with this guy, How did you manage? You okay? Maybe you could comment on, could you help those looking in at this, and what might they expect? What might they anticipate in their work with a guy like me over a duration of time?
I thought about it, even before the call today, and it's a little bit of a filter that I go through. And anytime that I've looked at, my personal development, professional development, and I kind of look at, there's lots of opportunities for myself out there, whatever I'm looking at. And I'm looking at not just the content or what I'm going to potentially get out of engaging with that, but it's also the person that I'm going to be engaging and working with. And so to make the choice and the decision to engage with you, it was twofold. It was you as the person, and it was the subject matter, it was the process, it was really the end result that I was striving over that course of that 1 year. And it was really a bundled package and a bundled decision. It wasn't just content, it wasn't just facilitator, it was everything. Mm-hmm. And one thing I can say is, having known you, that I knew that if somebody said, did you get a lot of value out of working with Murray? Hands down, like well beyond the dollars and cents of what I paid for it. Is, one thing that I just found, that working with you, compared to a lot of other coaches or mentors or people that I've worked with over the years, is that you don't work from, say, I'm giving you 45 minutes every week and we'll have this call, or, we can have, X number of conversations back via text or email. No, that's the thing I loved about you. It was freewheeling. I had a thought, you had a thought. It was back and forth over the course of the week. And, before we talked, and it was a constant exchange of ideas, whether it was informal or formal. And, and that really just kind of added to the relationship and to my feeling of connectedness, and really feeling like, what? I'm in the right program for me at that time.
Thank you for seeing me and seeing the dynamic. I mean, truth be told, not to scare anybody else, but I fell in love with each and every one of my fellow journeyers as we work together, and we're in it. We're just in it. And yes, there is a structure, but that structure is adaptable and movable, and is tailored to the individual needs and wants of the journeyer. And so, of course, I'm going to be responsive, and I'm going to be proactive too, both, so that we can maximize this co-creative potential that we have together, and see the magic and the mystery and the wonder of the whole thing unfold. And so, yeah, go ahead. You're talking.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about on more than one occasion, getting these texts from Murray at 12 o'clock at night, or early in the morning, and I'm looking at going, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And it's just like, you're just got all these ideas as we're working through the 1 year alchemy. You're just kind of putting it out there. And then finally, I think I had to say, Murray, can we put it on an email, the long one, so I can save them?
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. That's very good. I'm glad that happened early. Because you're right, and please know, for the visitor, the viewer and the listener, that if I send those out, I don't mean that you need to be accessible at midnight. I was kind of thinking Stirling, when he gets up in the morning, he'll have this to greet him there. But sometimes that wasn't true. You were up. It's like, what's going on? And there's like, this is great stuff, but the problem is he gets lost in text. And if we have this great thread, we really need to capture it. And in fact, that has given birth subsequently to online co-journaling, so that we don't have to worry that things are going to get lost, or that we have 1,000 emails over the course of a year, you know. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because not only is it worth a good chuckle, it's a good reminder of, how I learn from you, and I learn from others. And as you said, in the community shift, I came with an agenda, but then you guys taught me what you really wanted instead. So it really is this, at the risk of overemphasizing, it really is created together. I bring my insights and my experience, and then we see what is most complementary and compatible with the aspirations of the individuals involved. Stirling, could you perhaps touch on, okay, so my goodness, that sounds like a significant amount of time and energy and focus and resources. As you look back on your experiences, maybe one or the other or both, as the case may be, what could you share that you have taken with you that is the return for you, that is the return on all of what you put into it of yourself?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because and it's not just the return on the money, the investment that I made on myself, but it was all the time and the energy and emotion that went into it, because there was, and I really had to weigh that out, because there was lots of things going on in my life at the time that I had to look at and go, especially with the 1 year alchemy, because it is a big commitment. It is a commitment of time and energy and resources to that. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to devote that to that. But if I had to boil it down to one or two things that I was able to, really, I was able to really understand who I was. And one thing was, how do I define who I am? How do I define, is my life successful? And I turned that whole paradigm upside down to very much, model kind of what you have espoused for, is, like I said, is my definition of business success was all about how financially successful I've been. And I got to a point over the 100-day shift and the alchemy to realize that, what, it's the difference making that I, make in this world, that I offer and bring to this world, and the meaning that is associated with that. And then thirdly is the money making after that. And so it was really just readjusting my priorities about who I am. And subsequently, it's kind of springboarded me to refocus and redirect my time, both in my businesses and things that I'm doing that more align with, how do I make a difference in this world? How do I add more meaning into other people's lives and myself and my families?
Yeah.
So that was.
I hope you don't mind me mentioning that, as I've got to know you better and appreciate your core values, is you are someone who is very much at one with nature and our natural world. And I just had a beautiful wave of emotion, and your love of the animals, and how you stand in your integrity, given this multidimensional psycho-spiritual kind of relationship that you have with other living things, and the kinds of things that you have done you know, throughout your life, of course, but we're also born throughout our experiences together, in you coming closer and closer to how you can make your unique difference in the world. And I just want to acknowledge how beautiful that is, and how deeply meaningful it is for me to be a witness to that unfolding in you. And how, as you comment on difference making, meaning making, and money making, and you know, me too, earlier on, it was money making held precedence over the difference making and the meaning making at times, and how I discovered myself too, that I needed to right that ship because it wasn't fulfilling. And yet all three can be compatible as well if we get our difference making elevated over our money making, and our meaning making elevated over our money making. So I just want to acknowledge you, and, you know, without going into details, because that's not the purview of our call, but just to acknowledge in you that, you know, your essence to me, I got to know more and more about your essence over this duration of time we had together.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. So, you know, in conclusion, our time together is, there are many who are going to be watching and listening to our conversation who are amid significant change. And what they may not realize is that once the significant change happens, we're already in transition, and we are left with choices and decisions as to what we're going to do in the aftermath of the change. Do you have, based on your experience, any advice to impart those who are looking in at possibilities and looking in at maybe the discomforts associated with the uncertainty that may be there, or looking in at what's calling to them and maybe feeling some resistance? Do you have any advice you might like to pass along? Because I know there's lots of wisdom in you.
I would say, whenever I'm kind of looking and searching for some answers, and whether that's with a coach, whether that's with a mentor, whether that's taking a course or a program or something like that, I've got to a point where I don't just look at the, you know, what's laid out in front of me is what this is all about, and the process and the, you know, the logistics and everything else. I want to know who's this person I'm engaging with. Is get to know the person that is going to be holding your hand or guiding you through the process. Do you resonate with this person? Do you think that there's a connection, that, you know, there's some sort of alignment? Because I think that's really, it's not just the destination, it's the process, it's the journey. And I think that journey to really to get out of whatever you're looking for is to really embrace that journey with somebody that is going to be holding your hand and helping and guiding and assisting you along the way, as opposed to somebody that, yeah, they're probably credentialed very well, but you don't align. You might not align. You might not connect. I guess what I'm saying is, get to know the person. Have some communication. Have some conversation. Ask those hard questions, and see whether you resonate. You connect on some sort of level, and then make your decision whether you think this person or the program that they offer is going to be able to help move you forward in wherever you're going.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. So well said, so well articulated. Sterling, thank you so much for your time. It's nice to retrace these steps. Things that had become more distant to my memory were re-enlivened today, and a couple of good chuckles along the way. And And thank
I still want you to do an 100-day shift alumni call, because we all want to get on there.
Yes, you know what? I am recommitting to that, because that would be a joy. And you know, maybe one day we've got hundreds and hundreds of them coming together to have an alumni kind of experience. So anyway, thank you for your generosity of spirit, for giving of yourself so others can learn through your experience and our experience together. And I look forward to many future conversations together.
Anytime, my friend, and any of the listeners, viewers out there, if you're having questions, on the fence, wondering about Murray, I can give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm more than happy to be a point of contact and have a conversation down the road if Murray, you want to share with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Stirling. Okay, my friend.
Thank you, all the best. Good luck.
Thank you.
Talk soon.